Is that flora or fauna? Animal, plants, or rock? If you don't know now, you will by the end of this episode as we give you all the information you need to know about coral here in Taiwan and across the globe. Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can learn all about the animal kingdom and become smarter than all of your friends. What better way to spend your commute or downtime? Every Friday is Formosa Fauna Friday. Coral Reef Awareness Week is the third week of July. When it comes to bees and coral reefs, it seems like there is plenty of talk about how they must be protected and how failure to protect them adequately could be detrimental to ecosystems worldwide. But many people feel like they missed out on the lesson everyone apparently got, explaining exactly how that would be. It's times like these that you shouldn't shy away from asking questions and trying to understand. Corals are often mistaken for plants or rocks because of their hard calcium carbonate skeletons and branch-like features, but they are actually, drumroll please, animals. If you look up what is a coral reef, it'll say, a coral reef is an underwater ecosystem characterized by reef-building corals. Like, wow, thanks, very helpful. Each individual coral is referred to as a polyp. Many stony coral polyps range in size from 1 to 3 millimeters in diameter. Anatomically simple organisms, much of the polyp's body is taken up by a stomach that is filled with digestive filaments. Open at only one end, the polyp takes in food and expels waste through its mouth. Although adult corals are attached to the ocean floor, corals in the larval or baby life stage can swim, allowing them to move. They can ride ocean currents, searching for a suitable place to live, after which they can swim down and attach themselves to the bottom of the ocean floor, growing into a new coral colony. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, polyps of reef-building corals contain microscopic algae which exist with the animal in a symbiotic relationship, meaning somewhat mutually beneficial. The coral polyps, which are animals, provide the algae, which are plants, a home, and in exchange the algae provide the polyps with the food they generate through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis! Everybody say it with me. Photosynthesis. Because photosynthesis requires sunlight, most reef-building corals live in clear, shallow waters that are penetrated by sunlight. The algae also give a coral its color. Coral polyps are actually transparent, so the color of the algae inside the polyps show through. When corals are stressed, they expel these algal symbionts through a process known as coral bleaching. The U.S. EPA says coral reefs provide habitat for a large variety of marine life, including various sponges, oysters, clams, crabs, sea stars, sea urchins, and many species of fish. Coral reefs are also linked ecologically to nearby seagrass, mangrove, and mudflat communities. One of the reasons that coral reefs are so highly valued is because they serve as a center of activity for marine life. Coral reefs are indispensable parts of the entire marine ecosystem. Coral reefs harbor many, many marine creatures. All manners of creatures inhabit, breed, feed, and avoid enemies in coral reefs, which naturally forms a rich ecosystem. There can be as many as 1,500 types of fish within coral reefs. That's why it's dubbed the tropical rainforest in the sea. Corals can be found throughout the world's oceans in both shallow and deep water. However, the reef-building corals that rely on a symbiotic relationship with algae do need shallow, clear water to allow for that sunlight to penetrate through for photosynthesis. Goodness. Stony corals also require tropical or subtropical temperatures, which exist in a band between 30 degrees north and south latitudes. Check out the EPA's website where you can find out just how important coral reefs are. It says, coral reefs hold enormous ecological, economic, and cultural value to hundreds of millions of people around the world, providing valuable ecosystem services, including nutrition, economic security, and protection from natural disasters. Coral reefs are among the most biologically diverse and valuable ecosystems on Earth. an estimated 25% of all marine life, including over 4,000 species of fish, are dependent on coral reefs at some point in their life cycle. Healthy coral reefs provide habitat, feeding, spawning, and nursery grounds for over 1 million aquatic species, including commercially harvested fish species. Healthy coral reefs provide food for people living near coral reefs, especially on small islands. They provide recreation and tourism opportunities such as fishing, scuba diving, and snorkeling, which contribute billions of dollars to local economy. They also protect coastal infrastructure and prevent the loss of life from storms, tsunamis, floods, and erosion. Sources of new medicines that can be used to treat diseases and other health problems have also been harvested from healthy coral reefs. We did briefly mention coral bleaching already, but let's clear that up again. Coral bleaching is the process where corals become white due to loss of symbiotic algae and photosynthetic pigments. I promise you, I've said much harder words, and I've never had a problem saying photosynthesis before. Changes in temperature, light, or nutrients can all be potential stressors. Corals can survive a bleaching event. The bleaching does not ensure that they will die, but if the algae loss is prolonged and stress continues, they could very well eventually die. Take the year 2005 as a good lesson to us all. The United States lost half of its coral reefs in the Caribbean in 1 year due to a massive bleaching event. The warm waters centered around the northern Antilles near the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. They expanded southward. Satellite data from the previous 20 years confirmed that the thermal stress from the 2005 event was greater than the previous 20 years combined. How about in Taiwan? According to Greenpeace, Taiwan's coral reef communities make up 1/3 of the world's variety of species. Of the 700 species of stony corals on the planet, 250 can be found along the nation's coast. Taiwan used to be known as the Coral Kingdom. The coral reef communities are widespread in Kending, Green Island, and Orchid Island. These communities make up less than 1,000th of the world's coral reefs in terms of scale, but in terms of the variety of species, they make up 1/3 of the world's total. Pollutants from human activities can easily damage coral reefs. Agricultural pesticides flowing into rivers, industrial and household wastewater discharged into the sea, and even sun protection like sunblock products that contain harmful chemicals may disrupt coral reefs' reproduction and growth cycles. Just recently in Taiwan, a cleanup removed nearly 2,000 invasive starfish from the Dongsha Atoll National Park. The infestation of starfish spanned a nearly 4-kilometer stretch of the area. The Taiwan Coral Reef Society had to give a statement on the situation, during which they likened the starfish to locusts passing through and estimating coral recovery could take up to 10 years. The crown of thorns starfish have hundreds of toxin-tipped thorns and feed on coral. This also makes their removal somewhat risky and challenging. They've also laid extensive damage to the Great Barrier Reef, which is located off the coast of Queensland, Australia. The NOAA Coral Reef Conservation Program has a list of guidelines that we can follow so we can make sure we're doing our part to protect and preserve natural coral reefs. First of all, although tempting, don't take corals and seashells home for souvenirs. Corals are alive and seashells are home for many animals. Both also play an important role in creating beautiful sandy beaches. In many coastal states and territories, collecting corals as souvenirs is prohibited. Admire them in their natural habitats. Observe corals from a safe distance. Do not touch. Corals are fragile animals. Again, they are animals. Be careful not to touch, kick, or stand on the corals you see in the water because this may damage or kill them. Litter, like plastic bags and bottles, can become entangled on corals. Dispose of your waste properly and recycle whenever possible. If that whole chunk of coral-related information was a lot, Don't worry, you don't have to remember it all to have gained something from today's episode. If you remember even just one thing, you will have not wasted your time and you will have left this this episode smarter than when you first started listening. If you need a couple of bullet points though of things you should remember, here they are. First and foremost, corals are animals. One polyp is as small as just a few millimeters in diameter. Coral reefs are indispensable parts of the entire marine ecosystems as they harbor many marine creatures. Taiwan is home to around 250 species of stony corals. Corals are easily damaged by temperature changes, both cold and warm, and pollutants. Try to pick at least one of those and remember it for next time. In our last episode, we found a story about a Chinese man who tried crossing the border from Hong Kong into Shenzhen with over 100 live snakes in his trousers. Like, actually, I still don't see an update on this story. I'm not sure the purpose of smuggling these snakes in. I'm not sure, were they his pets? Why would you put them in your pants? It's not clear yet, but I will keep an eye on the story. It seems like the poor snakes just can't catch a break this month. This week in the news, we see a report from NDTV World sharing how pythons are being eaten. Python meat is used as an alternative animal protein source in Thailand. Pythons have been in demand for some time due to their pretty diamond patterned skins, which are often sold and used to make belts and purses and other accessories or clothing items. Scientists are claiming pythons might be able to reduce our carbon footprint and are allegedly a viable alternative to other animal proteins because snakes are able to tolerate high temperatures and drought, reproduce quickly, and grow faster than other traditional sources of animal protein, while at the same time consuming much less food. On a diet of waste chicken and wild-caught rodents, pythons offered a more efficient feed-to-meat ratio than poultry, beef, and even crickets in some of the studies that were carried out. It's estimated that China and Vietnam have a total of around 4,000 python farms, which produce millions of snakes for the fashion industry. One python farmer in Thailand, Emilio Malucci, says that they've had little success convincing people to take snake meat, so most of what is produced either goes discarded or to fish farms. He says it's a complete waste. Despite the meat having a chicken-like texture and being low in saturated fats, there is just no market for python flesh. He even eats some of his own snakes because he knows what they eat and knows how they are raised, according to him. What do you think? How would you feel about eating snake meat? I'm probably too much of an animal lover to feel completely comfortable talking about this because I also don't hate snakes. I'm afraid of some of them if they're aggressive or poisonous, but I find many of them adorable. In Taiwan, there's what Nick Campbell on Taiwan Obsessed calls Taipei's sketchiest market, Snake Alley and Huaxi Night Market. The area used to attract tourists who could watch snakes being skinned for their meat, blood, and beyond. Snake Alley sounds like something fresh out of Harry Potter. Tell me it doesn't. The government banned such performances back in the 2000s to both adhere with Article 13 of Taiwan's Animal Protection Act, as well as appeal the public's growing concern about animal welfare. The last snake restaurant in Taipei's Huaxi Street Night Market, or Snake Alley, again, Harry Potter, closed in the year 2018, with the second-generation owner converting it into a hot pot restaurant. At the closing, they performed a mock snake slaughter and gave attendees imitation snakes as souvenirs. Snake products can still be found in various places throughout Taiwan, although it is not as much a spectacle as it once was. One of those products is snake wine, an alcoholic beverage produced by infusing whole snakes in rice wine or grain alcohol. The drink was first recorded to have been consumed in China during the Western Zhou dynasty around the years 1040 to 770 BC. It's believed in folklore to reinvigorate a person, and that's also according to traditional Chinese medicine. The process and people who make the snake wine prefer venomous snakes. That's right, they prefer the ones that are venomous. Snake wine can be found in multiple nations across Southeast Asia. Have you seen it being made or sold where you live? In probably better news, a couple of months ago, Washington became the 12th state to ban the sale of animal-tested cosmetics in the United States. Typically, guinea pigs, rabbits, mice, and rats are used for sometimes painful testing of cosmetics ingredients. If you are to buy cosmetics, is that something that you would take into consideration? Nowadays, there are plenty of brands that are vegan, ethical, and animal cruelty-free, making it a lot easier to avoid the animal-tested products. If you've been around for the past couple of episodes, do you remember that contest I mentioned where you can have a box of animal-centric merchandise sent to you just for sending in a physical letter with a story about a pet or animal and a photo? I'm here yet again to give you an update on that. To review, as a part of Formosa Fauna, I'm hoping to hear stories from listeners just like you about your own interaction with your pets and beyond. The stories and photos that listeners send in can become a regular part of our show. I would love to open them up and share these stories on our show here or also on our YouTube if you do have extra cute photos. Okay? Looking for the photos. To kick us off during the first episode, I offered the first person who could get their physical letter and photo to me a box of animal-centric merchandise, including a Formosan black bear plushie that turns into a neck pillow. Also, local vegetarian delicacies and mystery keepables that would be adorable and practical to have around. As of the time of recording this episode, I have not yet received a letter. I'm starting to question everything. Is anybody out there? Is anybody listening? Perhaps all of your lovely stories and letters and photos are stuck in the mail? Because if you did send in a letter already, that doesn't mean that I didn't receive it. It just means that I haven't received it yet. It could also mean that nobody thought they would be fast enough to win the little box of goods, so nobody sent one in. But I will reemphasize that if you do send something in, but it doesn't end up being the first, I will still open it up, read it on air, and try to send you a little something back for your troubles. So it's not going to go to waste. If you do have a story and photo to share and you haven't gotten around to it yet, why not now? I'm also going to promote this program on my YouTube channel, which has over 200,000 subscribers. But I held off a little to give the regular RTI listeners a head start. I'm going to be posting a video and sharing it this week, though, probably today or tomorrow. So like I said, act fast. Our building is in Taiwan, meaning that someone sending a letter in from Taiwan would likely have a slight advantage due to the short distance. But if the first letter I receive is from Taiwan and I later get a letter postmarked before that one, I will try to put another box together. That way it's fair for listeners across the globe. The address for Radio Taiwan International can be found pretty easily online. Just look for the number 55 Bei'an Road address in Taipei, Taiwan. That is number 55 Bei'an Road in Taipei, Taiwan. At any point in time, you're welcome to send in emails. You can write that email to tristan@rti.org.tw. That is tristan@rti.org.tw. But it won't be a part of the little contest. But I'll still try to read it on air. Making it to the end of an episode makes you a Formosa Fauna friend. It's not gross, it's cute. Thank you for tuning in, friend. All animals require enrichment, and Formosa Fauna is just that. After all, we're all just a bunch of wild animals. See you next time for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.